Welcome to Public Domain Video Theater presented by the great detectives of old-time radio. From Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham. If you have a comment, email it to me, box13@greatdetectives.net. Well, now it is time for another episode of Racket Squad. This is Season 2. Episode 35, original air date May 1st, 1952, and the title is The Soft Touch.
What you're about to see is a real-life story, taken from the files of the police racket and bunco squads, business protective associations, and similar sources all over the country. It is intended to expose the confidence game, the carefully worked-out frauds by which confidence men take more money each year from the American public than all the bank robbers and thugs with their violence. Fundamentally, this case could have been dreamed up by one of our first bunco artists, back in the days when it was fashionable to wear a bearskin to dinner. But don't let antiquity lull you to sleep. This was an old setup, but with a new twist. We'll call this the case of the soft touch. And it started as one of the hottest things in town. A real three-alarm blaze that brought out every available piece of equipment to fight the fire that raged next door to the Central Plaza Hotel, endangering the lives of its many guests. By the time the fire was controlled, the hotel guests had gathered in the bar and grill, the most handy place from which to make a quick exit if necessary.
Ladies and gentlemen, your attention, please. The fire has been controlled and there's no further danger to yourselves or the hotel. Unfortunately, you may not return to your rooms until the smoke is cleared and the fire department checked each floor. But in the meantime, you're welcome to stay here and enjoy any refreshment you wish as guests of the management.
Fine. We've been standing here so long, I hope you don't mind my talking to you.
Oh, I think a fire is a fairly warm introduction. I'm Mona Sloan, Mrs. Mona Sloan.
Glad to know you, Mrs. Sloan. I'm Nat Nevers. Would you care to sit down? He said the house would buy a drink.
Well, I think it's a wonderful idea, but all the tables are taken.
Couldn't help overhearing your conversation. There's plenty of room here. Why don't you sit down and join us?
Why not? Thank you.
That's the right attitude, girl. My name is Duncan, Abe Duncan from Denver.
It's nice to know you, Mr. Duncan. I'm Mona Sloan, and this is Mr. Nevers.
Hiya, Nevers.
Glad to know you, sir.
And this is my partner, Fred Apple. Apple never says much. He's the passive type.
Well, you can't say much around Duncan. Living in the Rockies, he gets used to hearing his voice echoing through the canyon.
Waiter, cigarette?
Thank you. You gentlemen are being so kind, I think I'm going to enjoy my first hotel fire.
We had a bad fire aboard ship last year. I can't say I like them on sea or land.
We're drinking scotch. How about you folks?
That's good for me.
I'll have some dry sherry, please. You mentioned something about a ship. Are you in the Navy?
No, merchant marine. I'm second officer on a Nelson Line freighter.
How fascinating. Where do you go?
Mostly up and down the Pacific coast, sometimes to Honolulu. Last run was to Alaska.
I always wanted to go there. They tell me there's a lot of money in that neck of the woods.
You can't spend what you got. What do you want any more for?
Well, a dollar makes a dollar.
I've got the brains, he's got the money. But we're here on a deal right now that's worth a fortune.
How different all our lives are. I'm here in the city on a shopping spree to spend money, and you're here to make it.
Well, if you put it that way, I'm here for another reason. Just fun.
Wonderful. Here's to fun.
Pardon me. I want you to enjoy yourselves and stay here in the grill as long as you like. But at any time you wish, your rooms can now be reoccupied.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, it's after 12:30. I'd better get to bed.
Yeah, me too. We've got a big day tomorrow. Say, why don't you and the young lady have lunch with us tomorrow? We like these two people, don't we, Fred?
I can't see anything wrong with them.
Well, thanks.
I have some shopping to do, but I think we could meet you at 1.
Fine. We'll see you at 1, with a drink in one hand and a welcome in the other. Well, good night.
Good night.
I will see you tomorrow then, unless there's another fire tonight.
I hope not. Good night.
Good night.
Good night. They seem like two pretty good eggs, don't they?
I like them. Solid. 2 big butter and egg men type. I should know. I'm married to one.
Oh.
Oh, don't be upset. He tends to his business and I tend to mine.
And just what is yours?
Well, this evening it's been escaping from fires and flirting with a very nice ship's officer.
I like the last part of that.
I hoped you would. Now I must get some sleep. Walk me to the elevator and tell me about Alaska.
Oh, there's not much to tell. It's got about everything, including totem poles and Eskimos.
The nights are long, aren't they?
Sometimes 6 months.
Oh, wonderful. Hello? Oh, Phil, where are you?
In the hotel. Didn't you see me at the bar?
Well, of course, but what do you expect me to do, invite you over to join the party?
Take it easy. I heard about the fire and came down to see if you're okay. And I saw you with the 3 guys, so I stayed out of the picture. Is that, business with them?
Just laughs while the joint burns.
For a former husband, it sounds like you were doing the burning. Look, Phil, this may be the break we've been looking for.
Yeah, how do you figure?
The 2 old guys are typhoons.
You mean, tycoons, don't you?
You don't know Mr. Duncan. He is a typhoon. Anyway, they're loaded, and if it hadn't been for the fire, I wouldn't have met him.
And, what's the rundown on the young one?
Look, sweetie, our decree isn't final yet, but the papers I have say that I don't have to answer any more questions. I'll talk to you tomorrow, darling. Bye.
So Mona Sloan isn't the fancy-free person she pretends to be after all. It seems there's a husband somewhere in the background. And it would appear that Mona has something up her sleeve that isn't immediately apparent to the casual observer.
I can still smell that smoke.
That's not smoke you smell. That's fire.
Fire? What do you mean?
Mrs. Mona Sloan. She's the hottest thing in town.
I don't know. I don't like taking a woman. They're not reliable.
They're getting too soft for this racket. Me? I can spot a mark around a corner in a coal mine, and take my word for it, she's it. The mink, the jewels, the easy personality. Brother, we're in.
I don't know. My feet hurt. That always means trouble.
Well, Ship's Officer Nevers looks like the only one who can wiggle his toes with immunity and a clear conscience. What is this racket? Obviously, the very pretty Mrs. Sloan has something up her very pretty sleeve. And the Messrs. Duncan and Apple are working on something as equally illegal. And where does young Nevers fit into the frame? Ship officers are not rich, and this particular one looks like he respects the law.
Good morning. Did I disturb you?
My, what a handsome uniform. Come on in. I've been to my brokers and my dressmakers, as you can see.
I know I'm awfully early for our luncheon date, but I wanted to talk to you.
Now, who ever heard of a woman listening while a man talks?
Well,
Come on, silly. Let's go down to the grill. Top of the morning to you.
Same to you. This is one morning I don't feel much like complimenting.
Now, what's on your mind? And if it's bad, say it fast.
Well, for one thing, I got a wire this morning recalling me to the ship.
Oh?
Ship's been in dry dock, but they finished the work. I've got to fly out in the 3 o'clock plane today. That does me out of another week's liberty.
That's a shame. But tell me, what are you doing here in the first place, so far away from your ship?
I had a girl here. I was going to get married.
What happened? No rice?
No bride. She just walked out, moved, disappeared.
Here, take a drink. She was a fool. But don't get me wrong, it's just that I understand women. At least you have a ship that you can sail away on and forget the whole thing.
I don't know why I tell you this, but I like you and
Go on.
I'm a crook, a thief. And let's use another term. I'm a smuggler.
Of what?
Furs, baby sealskins from Alaska.
You surprised me. Why did you do it?
I told you. I was getting married and needed the money. Skins are worth a lot of money, but they're illegal. I bought them cheap, and it wasn't too hard to get them ashore and pass customs. I know a man in this town. What do you call him? A fence. Anyway, I heard he was picked up last night by the police, so now I don't know what to do.
Aren't you taking an awful chance telling me all this?
I guess I am, but I thought... Oh, I don't know what I thought, except that I need help and money and...
Where are the furs?
2 suitcases in my room.
I may be able to help you. Don't we have a luncheon engagement?
Yes, we do.
Champagne. Well, Duncan was a good host. You could tell that by his waistline.
Have some more celery.
Thank you.
I've had it where it costs more, but didn't taste better. Nevers?
No, thanks.
As I was saying, we saw this property early this morning and decided to buy it for a subdivision. Mighty pretty country. All apple orchards. Say, I never thought. Here I've got a partner named Apple. Oh, that's a good one. That's a real pip.
Don't you mean Pippin?
Say, that's even better.
And may I add that it's all a lot of applesauce, except for the good solid dough, which I'll put up.
If this is a stock proposition, Mr. Apple, I might be interested. I'm looking for a good investment.
You can be in on the ground floor. Can't you, Fred?
Well, maybe. I haven't made up my mind on the setup yet. I like to retain about 80% of any deal. It's like those oil properties we bought. I had about $1.5 million tied up in that.
Will you excuse me, please? I just remembered I haven't much time.
What's the matter with you, son? You haven't eaten anything and now you want to rush off.
I've got to fly out of here at 3 o'clock to rejoin my ship.
I wondered why you had that uniform on.
I hope I'm not being rude, and I want to thank you very much.
Stay a while. You have time. Mr. Duncan, our friend is in serious trouble. I thought perhaps you might give him some advice and some help.
I'd be glad to. I'm a troubleshooter from away back. Just lay it on the line.
I'm sorry Mrs. Sloan mentioned this. The whole thing is a mess and illegal.
Can't say that I go for that sort of thing.
If it doesn't involve murder, let's hear it.
I'll do the talking. Mr. Nevers is very upset. There's a ban and heavy fine against importing baby sealskins into the United States. He took a chance and brought some back from Alaska.
Baby sealskins? How many?
200.
That's a lot of pelt. What are they worth?
$100 a skin on the open market because they're illegal. I'll sell them for $50 because I can't take them back and I need the money badly.
My wife would go crazy about those.
So would mine. Where are they?
Can I trust you?
Listen, son, we're in for anything where there's a profit, providing there's no risk attached.
I took the risk getting through customs. They're clear now.
Well, what about it?
Well, it depends. I want to see them first.
I have an idea. I'd like to see them myself. Why don't you bring them to my suite and then we can all look at them?
I guess I could.
It's a deal. Waiter, bring me a check.
Well, I guess the furs are all there, and you're going to get some money out of your smuggling. But we know that Duncan, Apple, and Mrs. Sloan are working separate con games. What do they gain by helping a man get rid of illegal goods? Well, let's see how it works out.
Say, these are real pretty.
They sure are. They're soft as silk.
I'd rather have a woman's opinion. What do you think about these, Mrs. Sloan?
I think they're splendid. The most beautiful I've ever seen. As a matter of fact, if I didn't have so many...
Now, wait a minute, Mrs. Sloan. These furs were offered to Duncan and me, and we're going to buy them.
Oh, don't worry. A deal is a deal, and I won't try to outbid you. It's a woman's prerogative to be envious of beautiful things.
What'd you say you wanted for these?
$50 a pelt.
200 pelts, that's $10,000. How much cash do you have, Fred?
About 500.
I've even got less than that. Now, I suppose you've got to have cash.
Yes, I do.
All right, you're in business. Fred and I'll go over to the bank and get it for you.
It's 2 o'clock, Mr. Duncan. I've got to fly out at 3.
Now, don't you worry. You just stay here with Mrs. Sloan. We'll be back in time. Come on, Fred.
Come on now, Mr. Nevers. Look happy. The gentlemen are on their way to get the money. You're fortunate in more ways than one. See what I mean?
Let's drink to your windfall, darling. Don't you have something to say?
I don't know how to thank you.
Don't you? Yes.
We're at the bank, Mrs. Sloan. But there's a little delay about getting the amount of money we need. You know how banks are with people from out of town. But you just tell Mr. Nevers to wait. We'll be there in time.
Oh, just a moment, Mr. Duncan. We're going to be late getting back with the money.
I've got to leave in 15 minutes or I'll miss the plane.
Mr. Nevers says he has to leave in 15 minutes.
You be sure and hold him. We'll be there in time.
I don't know what to do.
Why don't you have a cigarette and I'll make another drink?
Well, the pressure's on. Who is going to do what now, and who is going to grab the gold ring on this merry-go-round ride?
Hello?
Mrs. Sloan, we have the money. But unfortunately, there's still a little delay. And I'm afraid that we're not going to be there in time.
That's awful.
Mrs. Sloan, I have an idea. If you have enough cash, I wonder if you would pay Nevers so that he could leave, and then we'll pay you and pick up the merchandise.
Well, I was at my broker's this morning, and I do have enough cash, but...
Well, you'll be doing a great favor for the boy and for us, and we'll pay you within the hour.
All right, Mr. Duncan, I'll handle it. Everything's going to be all right.
That's great.
Where's my polka dot tie?
I packed it. I told you she was a sucker.
Well, I gotta hand it to you, Duncan, for good character reading. Oh, that must be him. Get it, will you?
Give me that money. For your first job, that's nice going.
Thanks.
You almost had me believing you were in the Merchant Marine.
5 $1,000 bills and the rest in hundreds. I hated to take it from her. She's a pretty swell girl.
You can get bushels of them with this kind of lettuce. Take a look at that bill, Fred.
It's counterfeit.
Counterfeit?
Yeah, I ought to know. I used to pass the stuff myself.
Every one of them phony.
We've been taken, Duncan. She's a crook. I think we better have a little talk with her.
I think so, too. But we better finish this packing. We've got to get out of here, too, you know.
I guess women are smarter than men.
Maybe women are. But I'll guarantee you that Duncan and Apple don't take this lying down. So let's wait a moment and see who outsmarts who in this game of cheating cheaters.
Who is it?
Phil.
Hi.
Hi. I got your message. What happened?
I'll tell you while I'm packing.
Packing? What are you packing for?
Baby, we've done it.
You mean you've already passed some stuff?
Mm-hmm.
How much?
$10,000 worth.
Sweet picking. How much did you get for it?
200 sealskin pelts.
That's good. 200 what?
Sealskin pelts. They're worth twice what I paid for them already. They're illegal.
Where are they?
Take a look.
Of all the wooden heads.
What's the matter with you?
Nothing's the matter with me. It's you. These ain't sealskin. They're rabbit. Worth about 50 cents a pelt.
Oh, Phil, you're kidding. We've been skinned.
Very funny. I ought to make you eat 'em.
Oh, now, wait a minute, baby. Oh, there's a way out of this. I bought those skins for Duncan and Apple.
Tell me more.
Just this. The skins belong to the young guy. He brought them back from Alaska because he needed dough. The other two are paying me real money.
Supposing the young guy finds our money ain't from the mint.
He won't, sweetheart. He's already on a plane for the West. Now, take back what you called me.
I don't know.
That's Duncan and Apple now with the money. Get in here.
Well, I must say it's a nice little game you played on us.
Well, what do you mean? I did just as you asked.
Yeah, but with counterfeit bills. What's the idea? You must think we're legitimate.
Not after I found out those furs were 50-cent rabbit skins. And as for you, with that baby face of yours, I didn't expect you to be in the racket.
Take it easy, sister. And now, what's the next move?
I'll make that one. Just because you're con men, you think the rest of the world is your oyster. Well, maybe our racket ain't as classy.
There you are right, my friend. Socially, at least among our colleagues, we're the tops.
Are you the lady's husband?
I was once. I'm still looking out for her rights.
I'll tell you what you do. Put that gun away and maybe we can make a deal. You take back your money and we'll take the furs.
And take a little ride downtown.
Get his gun.
I'm Captain Braddock of the Racket Squad. This is Lieutenant Mitch. The government has been interested in your counterfeiting for some time.
Thanks for the introduction, Braddock. And thanks for your cooperation. Now you two will go with me.
And we'll make our own little foursome. Shall we go? Cheating cheaters, dog eat dog, call it what you will. But it was a happy series of coincidences for us. Because of the fire, the hotel gave the police a list of its victims. During a routine check, we found Mona Sloan, her husband Phil, Mr. Duncan, and associates. All under known aliases, of course. You know, it's strange how criminals sometimes tread on their own toes. Mona Sloan actually fell for young Nevers while she was trying to work Duncan and Apple as two rich men she could pass her phony money on. Then along came the furs, and she saw a chance for a double payoff. Well, it paid off, all right, in long prison terms. Remember, confidence men and women are the smartest of all crooks, but even they are not above falling for each other's schemes. So if their tricks develop into a little game of cheating cheaters, no one is immune. Be careful. It can happen to you.
Welcome back. Overall, a very solid episode, and I think a fun and clever concept of crook versus crook that left you guessing, trying to figure out what everyone's game was. It also brings home a key idea about con men, at least during this era, that they tended to think that they were better than any of the other criminals. And apparently will say so even if confronted by one of these other criminals with a gun. It was a nervy thing to do, but the guy was just appalled by the idea of mixing around with mere counterfeiters. While it may seem a cheap way to deliver a crime doesn't pay moral, and maybe it is, the police arresting all of them is a reminder that while the criminals are watching each other, law enforcement are often playing their own games in the background. The ending speech by Captain Braddock is interesting, as oftentimes Golden Age media would portray crooks as idiots. And while that might be true of some crooks, that was certainly not what Racket Squad was going for. It was making the public aware of a class of very savvy, intelligent criminals. These criminals could concoct schemes that were so clever that they would ensnare equally clever criminals, which was a reminder that the average citizen needed to be on their guard. Well, that's all for now. Thank you for watching. You can follow us on social media or contact me by email at box13@greatdetectives.net. And be sure to check out our website at greatdetectives.net. If you want even more video theater, be sure to subscribe to us either on YouTube or in the Apple Podcast Store. And if you're watching on YouTube, be sure to like this video. Finally, thank you to all of our Patreon supporters for their support. From Boise, Idaho, this is your host, Adam Graham, signing off.